Hello, welcome to month 21 of my TBR Zero project. I would love to start this video by encouraging you, if you are new here, to go back and watch a couple of earlier videos. Some from the very beginning of this project. I've got a video where I explain my rules and why I'm doing this project, the background behind it, everything like that. And a second recommendation is to watch the video that came out right before this one, my rule change video, because that will explain where I am now and what I am trying to achieve over the next period of this TBR Zero project. Okay, so you've done that and you've come back, or you've been watching these videos for a while and so you know what's going on. Welcome. I am so excited to be starting off month 21. I can't even tell you. In fact, for me, it's actually been month 21 for over a week because I began March with the sorest throats I have had in, if not a long time, then possibly my entire life. I woke up on March the 1st and I was just like, that's it. That's my weekend. I am ill. Nothing is going to be happening here other than me lying in bed. Maybe the sofa tomorrow if I feel a bit better. But that Saturday I spent the whole day in bed, and being ill I wanted to read children's books, so that is what I did. So another important thing to know about me when I'm ill, other than the fact that I want to read children's books, is that I don't want to make many decisions. So I decided to read Noel Streatfeild books, basically. That was my plan. I will read Noel Streatfeild books until I have run out of Noel Streatfeild books. And then hopefully I won't be ill anymore. I knew I had 3 lurking on my shelves and I had wanted to read them for a while, but I'd been saving them for a rainy day, and is there anything more rainy day than being ill, other than an actual literal rainy day? No, I think not. Nothing I feel embodies the spirit of a rainy day more than being really ill. So there we go. I decided it was time. I got all of these secondhand. I picked these all up at various book boxes as I lived my life and went around and picked up books. So I paid for absolutely none of these. They all are varying condition and age. The first one I read was Gemma. So this book cover is interesting, shall we say. This is supposed to be a 11-year-old, yes, 11-year-old in that outfit, yeah. In that outfit. This was originally published in 1968, hence the very, very 60s outfit, and it is the first in a series. I think there's 4 Gemma books in total when I looked it up. So this is about a ordinary family who don't have very much money because the father has just been made unable to work. So he's a musician, I think he's a violinist, and he can't work due to some kind of condition in his hands. And the mother goes out to work and they cut back their costs, but they're really struggling. So when they get asked to look after their niece Gemma, while her mother, who is a one-time film star, flies out to America to try and relaunch her career. Gemma herself is also a film star. She's been starring in loads of films. She kind of took over once her mother's career had stopped being a going concern, and so she's used to a very different lifestyle. She is used to a lot of nice things. She's used to spending her time on film sets. She's never been to school before, so it's all been very, very different for her. So she comes and she moves in with this family who just don't really know what to expect, and she doesn't really know what to expect from them, but they get along. There are some ups and downs, but they work it out. I really enjoyed this kind of fish out of water story. I enjoyed seeing how Gemma adapted to her new situation and how they all adapted to her. There are some great characters in this. So I think the family is 3. So it's Anne, who is, I think, the same age as Gemma. Her younger sister Lydia, who is rather less sensible. She has a lot of pride in her dancing skills, shall we say, and very much will do what it takes to ensure that she gets the dancing lessons that she feels she needs. And then their brother, who gets a scholarship to a choir school. And the parents are fabulous characters as well. I love how determined and hardworking the mum is, and the dad, who is kind of struggling to his new life situation of not being able to play music anymore. And he has a lot of sympathy for Gemma, and they get on really well. And he gives her advice. I just loved the whole family setup. I thought it was great. Unfortunately, this is like long out of print, so I don't know how I'll get hold of a copy of Gemma and Sisters. I may have to look on like secondhand book sites or something, but I would really like to continue the adventure because the ending of this was super interesting and set up, I think, a very interesting story for the next book. So there we go. That was my first Noel Streatfeild. Most people start with ballet shoes. I went obscure, but don't worry, I got less obscure as time went on. So the next one I picked up was The Bell Family, which is in this absolutely beautiful paperback edition with this cover by Alice Tate. I looked her up on Instagram and tagged her because I just wanted to rave about how much I love this cover. It's like inside the house and you've got the different characters going on here. So the Bell family have a little bit of overlap with the family from Gemma. They are another impoverished family, only there is no sort of interlocutor coming in and shaking things up. They are just sort of like living their life, and this story sort of meanders around various events and money troubles. What I really love about these books is they're very realistic about money troubles. For me, I find it so compelling reading about these people trying to make the most of the small amount of money they have. It's just really engaging. So the Bell family's difficult financial situation comes from the fact that the father is a vicar. He came from a wealthy background. His father was a business owner, but he didn't want to go into business with his father. He decided that he wanted to be a vicar, and so his father's cut him off. They still talk, they still visit, they still spend time together, but his father won't give him any money. So there he is. His wife is struggling to bring up this family on their meagre income. The vicar himself is lively unaware, because he's from such a wealthy background, that money is just not something that really enters into his brain. But the wife is very, very, very aware of how little they have. And when they move to South London, to a new parish, and have to take on this new house with all these problems and things wrong with it, they are a bit overwhelmed, to say the least, until they make friends with a cleaner who's happy to help them out for very little money, because she just sees it as her good deed, and also her husband earns enough that she doesn't really need to work. This is total fairy tale territory. But anyway, as I say, there's not really so much of a firm like guiding plot throughout the whole book in this. There is the question of the character's ambitions. So one of the older children, I think the oldest child, really wants to be a doctor. But his grandfather has told him that if he gives up his dreams of being a doctor and goes into the family business instead, he'll give him an allowance. He keeps thinking, oh, this allowance will really help my family out. I should do it. I should give up my dreams. But then can I really give up my dream? Like, I really, really, really want to be a doctor. There's another couple of characters who have performing ambitions. There's also a dog. I honestly just love this. I think there's a second book about the Bell family, so I will be keeping an eye out for that. This was just pure escapism, time travel back in time with a realistic edge to it, and I loved it. Really, really enjoyed this book. Just thinking about it is just bringing back all the happy memories of how I escaped from being very, very ill and feeling terrible by being absorbed into the stories in this book. Then I had won myself a little reward. So that evening I read a graphic novel. This was one I had actually originally got via NetGalley, but had utterly failed to read before it expired. But it was okay, because we have the Global Comics app, and on the Global Comics app they have basically everything by Oni Press on there. So I found it, read it, and finally got to enjoy it. So the book is How Could You by Ren Strapp. It is, I would say, a sort of slice of life university story. So it's about a bunch of people at university and their love dramas, basically. They're romantic dramas. I would struggle to call it a romance because there's so much friendship stuff in here as well, and also a lot about like difficult relationships that aren't resolved neatly, that don't have a happy ending. What it is, I feel, is more of a realistic slice of life, as I say, university drama kind of book. the people are all trying to figure out who they are in the world and what they want out of relationships and stand up for themselves and set boundaries and all of that good stuff. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Then, still ill the next day, I read Circus Shoes. I have to admit that this was not my favourite. This was my least favourite out of the three. So this one is about two children who run away to the circus. Basically, their aunt, who's been looking after them since their own parents dies, and they are told that they will get separated and sent to children's homes / school type establishments, and they don't want that. So they decide to track down the one relative they know they have, their uncle, who lives in a circus. And at the circus, they are just totally bamboozled by everything. It's quite a cunning narrative device where these characters are really, really naive and really, really ignorant because they've been brought up by their aunt, who had these ideas that she got from working for the upper class about how children should be educated and everything. So they never went to school. They had some really poor quality lessons from random people that their aunt knew. And so they know almost nothing about how the world works. And this serves to give the author a really good excuse for explaining a lot of the circus stuff in detail, because these children know nothing about it. They've never been to a circus. They didn't even really know what a circus was before. And so therefore she can describe in honestly kind of boring detail in places the workings of the circus. There are things where I would have liked a summary, Noel. You know, like, could you have maybe spent less time describing exactly how the big top was constructed? Yes. It's not that the book as a whole is boring. The plotline is fun, and I liked how the characters are trying to find their own place in the circus. That was great. It's just it really got kind of bogged down in the administrative details of how a circus runs, and I felt like that could have been summarised. There could have been less of that. I don't know, I just didn't get on with Circus Shoes. It was not my favourite. I will of course go back and read or listen to Ballet Shoes, and I definitely want to read more books by this author, but Circus Shoes, just not the one for me. And I've heard people say it was their favourite, so yeah, just didn't work for me, I guess. But it did put me into a kind of circus mood. So, having run out of Noel Streatfeild, I started to feel better. I thought I could move on from children's books to YA. Logical progression to build back up to being able to read whatever I like, right? And I spotted this on my shelf. So this is a proof copy that I got from Walker Books. I think the very last time I went to a book event, or if not the very last time, they're not far off. So this was like March 2018. And I suspect the last time I went to like a publishing book event where they gave you free books was 2019, before the pandemic. Because it was kind of over the course of the pandemic that I decided I didn't want to be trying aggressively to get new books to review and stuff like that anymore. You know, I think I dropped off a lot of the list when they were doing like GDPR cleanup, but I also just decided I wasn't going to pursue it anymore for the time being, because I started to think about doing Project TBR Zero. I hadn't committed to it yet, but it was in my head that I really wanted to start reading the books I already owned, and yeah. Anyway, this was one of the last proof books I got, I think, from that type of event. Flying Tips of Flightless Birds by Kelly McCaughrain. I remember like being told about this book in the presentation, but I don't remember there being like that much buzz amongst book bloggers at the time. And let me tell you, I loved this book. There should have been buzz. I enjoyed this so much, especially after Circus Shoes. It was so much fun to step into something with a faster pace, with lots of characters and lots of energy and lots of fun. So this is about Finch, who is one half of a circus double act with his sister Brady. They are part of a circus family. Their parents don't travel with a circus, but they run a circus school, which is struggling financially. They live in a small town in Northern Ireland. The author's from Belfast, so I'm assuming Northern Ireland. Although it's not precisely described, it sounds Irish, so I'm going to assume they live in Northern Ireland, like the author. They don't really fit in, partly because they're circus people, but also because Finch is gay and he is totally closeted, hasn't told anybody. People have guessed, of course, but he has not responded to them. He tries to just kind of style it out, and he wears all these wacky outfits to school, kind of matching with his sister and things like that. He has this group of circus friends in his circus life, but at school he doesn't really have anybody other than Brady. And then into his life comes Hector, who is a total geek, but very enthusiastic about circus, really into it, and decides that he is going to be Finch's new friend. Finch is not that interested. He's like, I don't want this geek spending time with me. I'm happy with it just being me and my sister. I don't want to let anybody in. He is someone who's been let down by a friend before. His previous best friend kind of dropped him suddenly, and he just has trust issues, severe trust issues. But Hector wants to spend time with him, is determined to be part of the circus, and things go from there. As I say, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was so fun. I loved getting to meet all the different circus characters and learn about them and their skills. And the story was just so absorbing and heartrending and beautiful. I would highly recommend. So that's where I am now. I'm currently listening to, as my reward book, A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting by Sophie Irwin, which I have borrowed from the library. Really enjoying that so far, and I think I am now going to go listen to it and try and make myself a fidget ring. I kept getting advertised fidget rings on Instagram, and I thought that would be really good to stop me like picking at the skin around my nails, because I have done this like my whole life. I managed to stop biting my nails by cultivating a sense of disgust about the idea of swallowing the dirt that gets trapped under your nails, basically, but I have never managed to fully stop picking the skin around my nails. So I thought, if I get a fidget ring, then that might stop me doing it. And then it occurred to me, I've got loads of joy making stuff. How about I try and make a fidget ring first to see if it works? And then if this is good for me, I can invest in some. So there we go. I'm going to go listen to my audiobook and try and do that, because I've got a conference to go to in a couple of days, and it would be good to have something to do whilst I listen. Otherwise, I just start picking. It is not good times. So there we go. I will update you soon, hopefully, on how I'm going on with that and what books I finish reading next. I'm still partway through Happy City, which I think I started last month. But otherwise, I am yet to begin anything. If you have watched my raw change, you'll know that I am embracing the smorgasbord. I do need to pick up another light non-fiction book, because I decided I always have to have one sort of more challenging, kind of denser non-fiction book on the go, and then one sort of lighter, easier one, usually about fashion or sort of self-help book or something like that. So yeah, I need to pick one of those, because I'm not currently in the middle of one. But other than that, I am good with where I am at with books at the moment. So yeah, hopefully I will update you soon. Hello, welcome back. This is a pyjamas update. I put my pyjamas on after getting home after a very busy Sunday, and I thought, wait, before I wash my face and take the makeup off, let's film an update. So here we are. It is now the 23rd of March. I've had a week. It has combined so many things, you name it, I've had it this week. And so I have not felt like filming. I have not had the time to film. It's all combined to make no filming happening this week. But I have been reading, so I thought I would take the time to give you a little update. The first thing I finished since my last update was a Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting, which I enjoyed a lot. It's a Regency romance in which the main character is a deliberate fortune hunter. So she's basically set out to try and find herself a wealthy husband because her parents are dead, and she has to support her sisters, basically. And she wants to be able to give them options and choices in life. So it's really important to her to find a rich husband. And she sets her sight on this young man who is about to inherit a load of money, but his older brother decides to put a stop to it. And then she ends up in a desperate bid to improve her fortunes, making a deal with him that if he helps her with her fortune hunting, she will leave his brother alone. And things go awry from there. I really enjoyed it. So that reward book done, I then moved on to my next 2 TBR books. I finished The Life-Changing Magic of Not Giving a... I actually really enjoyed this. I'd had this on my TBR for a while, but I thought I would finally pick it up and read it because Lena Norm's referenced this, I think, at some point in her book, Half-Horse Human. So I thought, you know what? That's a good endorsement. I will give it a go. And I did enjoy it a lot. I have been thinking lately about all the ways in which I make choices and decisions to make other people happy rather than myself. And this book was actually quite helpful in empowering me to do a bit more mental sorting and clear house in my brain and think more critically about whether I truly want to do some things or whether I just think I should do them. So yeah, enjoyed it. There we go. And then I read Malorie Blackman's autobiography, Just Sayin, which I really enjoyed. I think it only took me a few sittings because it was really compelling. So she talks about her childhood and the disruption that was caused to her life when her father left and revealed that they were in mortgage arrears and she had to get, basically her and her mother and siblings became homeless, and all the people who she had to deal with throughout her life telling her that she couldn't do things that she wanted to do, she couldn't study what she wanted to study, she couldn't become a writer, you name it. She faced a lot of racist assumptions when she was young, and it was really interesting to read about how she didn't let that stop her and how she kind of decided, screw them, I'm going to do it anyway. And she wanted to inspire other black children to know that they don't have to listen to this sort of nonsense. You know, she wanted to be a writer to tell the stories of black children and show them that they weren't just this tiny little box that the media at the time allowed for them. She talks about how there was so little representation of black people in TV and films, and how she couldn't find any British black authors. She discovered a bookshop in London which stocked a lot of Americans, but she couldn't find anyone who was British, and so she wanted to kind of open that door and let other people through and blaze that trail. And it was really amazing and inspiring seeing how she didn't have these role models, but she could see that there was a place for them, and that she could take that place, that she could be that person and show other children that it was possible, show the world that it was possible. It was just a really lovely read because even though she has to deal with some horrible stuff and it's incredibly unfair and just like had me just like fuming at the injustice of it all several times throughout this book, it was just fantastic that she had that determination and that she's Malorie Blackman, you know, like she's achieved so much, and that now children like her have that person to look up to, you know, they have that role model, they have that person like them that they can see, and I think that's incredible. And you know, it should have been that way all along, but hearing the story of somebody who actually did that, who set out to change the world in that way, it was amazing. It was just really like, I found it quite motivating in a way, because especially like in the last few years I found it quite difficult to imagine like the world is getting better. It's like I found it quite like difficult and depressing, but you know, things aren't perfect by any means, but they have moved on so much from how it was when Malorie Blackman was younger, you know, and she had a part to play in that. And so it's a useful reminder that you have to be the change you want to see in the world, basically. So yeah, I would really recommend this. It's a lovely memoir, very accessible, easy to read. I found this quite quick to read as well. I would pick it up and then just read and read and read and read and read until I had to stop. So yeah, loved it. So now I'm either on a memoir kick or a neurodivergence kick, or both. I'm not actually sure. Because Malorie Blackman, I think, quite vividly describes being a neurodivergent child. And although she doesn't go into it in this book, when I googled it afterwards, there are some articles where she's talked about discovering that she's neurodivergent. And so, yeah, so that ticks that box. And now I am reading Strong Female Character by Fern Brady, which is a memoir about the author finally admitting to herself, kind of, that she is autistic and that she should go for an assessment and getting an assessment. But kind of interspersed with other stuff that's happened in her life and like growing up and what it was like and how her brain works, which is so incredibly relatable. And so yeah, memoir and neurodivergence. And then I'm thinking, like, should I read one of the other books I've got about neurodivergence on my TBR next, or should I just read like another memoir? Which way is this going? Is it both? I'm looking forward to finding out what I feel like picking up next. We'll see. But yeah, that's what I'm reading now. Oh yeah, in between I had earned a reward book. I totally should have mentioned this before, but this is happening out of order. What of it. As my reward book for reading Life-Changing Magic and Just Staying, I read Welcome to St. Hell, my trans teen misadventure by Lewis Hancox. I was recommended this by Squid Horse, who has talked about it a lot on Instagram. I think read it last year, and then he recommended it several times since then. So I think based on his first mentioning of it, I requested it from the library, and then as he's kept, mentioning it other times since, I was really, really keen to read it as soon as I got the hold. And so yeah, when the hold came through, I borrowed it, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's a graphic memoir about the author's experience of growing up as a trans man, and it was really, really lovely. It's very funny at the same time as being like unflinchingly honest about the experience and how difficult it was. There's just these like amazing bits with his parents. I just loved the parents' interjections so much. There's like these bits where it's like the parent sort of like jumps out of the frame and is like, I didn't mean it like that, or that's not, what I meant, or, I'm sorry that I reacted that way, and that kind of thing. And that's really nice. Like, it has sort of like present commentary, and funny bits, just like when his mum is like, why do you always show me in this dressing gown? And he's like, you're always in the dressing gown. And like, she's in the dressing gown even right then. Yeah, it was just really funny. It made me laugh, and I loved the way that, I love the drawing style and like how all the different teenagers are drawn. It's very cartoony, I think, is the best way of putting it, but like realistic at the same time. There's like a lot of different like body shapes and like features shown. Like I thought it was really like creative and realistic, even though it's quite a like cartoony style. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, so I'm going to start because I'm not sure my ability to describe artwork in comics and graphic novels is particularly refined. I feel like I'm getting better. I'm starting to think more about art style and that kind of thing to describe it because I want to be better at talking about these kinds of books. But I still feel quite new to the world of comics and graphic novels. I've only been like seriously and regularly reading them for a few years, and so yeah. I feel like a baby, like a beginner in this area, so you'll have to excuse my occasional rambles. So there we go. I am now going to pop some YouTube on and finish getting ready for bed, drink my tea, do a hiccup, and then probably read a little bit more of Strong Female Character. So yeah, I will update you again soon. Bye! Hello, it is a week later. I've had another busy Sunday. It is now the 30th. Oh my god, what's happened to this month? It feels like it has just flown by. February seemed like it was lasting like 50,000 years, and now, yeah, March has just gone like bad. I feel like there was so much stuff I wanted to do this month that I haven't done. But what I have done is read a lot of books. So that's good. That's positive. We can feel good about that. Yay. I'm tired, can you tell? So, since my last update, I indeed finished reading Strong Female Character. I absolutely flew through this. I just found it so engaging and compelling and personal. Just hearing the author's story in her own words, and kind of experiencing was just a incredible driving force. Just propelled me through this book so fast, because I wanted to know, you know, how it was kind of going to work out and all of that stuff. It doesn't neatly resolve because it's real life, but it was really interesting to see, like, what took her to this point, like how she got there and all of that. As I think I said in my previous update, I was completely unaware of who Fern Brady was. So now I think I'm going to have to see if I can track down some of her comedy. I have been told by friends that they enjoyed it, so yeah, hopefully I will as well. I'm just so curious now to see what she's like when she's, like, funny. I feel like this book was funny in places, but also quite, like, dark and not the easiest of reads. Like, it was tough at the same time as I felt propelled forwards by the personality within. So yeah, I'm really curious, and I would warn anyone thinking of picking this up and thinking, oh, it's by a comedian, it'll be a funny book about autism. That it's not a funny book about autism. It's a brutally realistic book about what it's like to be undiagnosed, with a few funny bits that did make me laugh a lot, to be fair. But they were few and far between. Mostly I was just like, wow, this is kind of grim. Then it was time to speed through my book club book, which came in at the library 5 days before book club, and when I had a busy weekend coming up. And, you know, I did not mention reading this in my last update, did I? So there we go, that says it all, and that was only 3 days before book club. So yeah, I think I started reading this just about on the Monday, and then I read most of it on the Tuesday evening, and was, like, standing on the train platform waiting for my train in the morning on Wednesday, trying to finish it. Actually on the train reading it. I think I finished it like 3 minutes before arriving at my station. So yeah, it was an intense rush trying to read it. This is a very unusual book about 3 friends, one of whom is an artist, a second one who is really involved in the tech industry in the 90s and 2000s, and then the third one who is an activist, and her chapters are set in the future, in the 2040s. So it sort of spans a very large period of time, but the sections are all fairly distinct. Like, you don't spend a lot of time with all the characters all together. It's really hard to describe, and I feel like I'm doing a terrible job. It made for a fantastic book club discussion, because there was so much to discuss about friendship and what it means to have a meaningful life, and art, and selfishness versus selflessness, and devoting yourself to a project that you really believe in, and the future, and could this dystopian version of New York, you know, come to fruition? Could that happen in other cities as well? You know, yeah, lots to discuss in here, so I would recommend it as a book club book. Then I was just like, I've read too much too fast. I've readbossed too close to the sun, and yeah, I needed a couple of days. But then yesterday I had been eyeing up this little bit on my bookshelf where I had a few YA books, and I felt, you know what, I might be in the mood to read some YA, you know, some, like, the YA, it's just sitting there in front of me, tempting me. I love YA, I always have since I was actually a teenager myself. And although I don't read it as much as I used to, I read it not that far off as much as I used to, if that makes sense. I think what's happened is I now read a wider range of books, but I also read a lot more books than I used to. So there's plenty of room for YA in there amongst all of the other stuff I read, all of the non-fiction, literary fiction, genre fiction, etc. There's plenty of room for that in my varied reading diet. Anyway, all of this to say, to cut a bit of ramble short, I picked up Maggot Moon by Sally Gardner. I was so impressed by this book. I thought it was great. It was very, very powerful. It's set in an alternate 1950s, I think, where the Nazis won the Second World War, and they're not labelled as the Nazis in the book, but you can kind of get that vibe from it. And the main character and his grandpa live together in a house in what is called Zone 7, which is a really like hopeless part of their home country to live in. It's where people get sent when they're sort of like one step away from being used as slave labour. And it's a police state. It's terrifying. The schools are horrible. The teachers are horrible. Everything is pretty bad. But he has one comfort, one joy, and that is his best friend Hector. But when Hector disappears, everything suddenly gets a lot worse, and he becomes very angry. And I can't really talk any more about it without spoiling what's going on, because it's really interesting, the ideas that it explores, and it's really fun and compelling at the same time, despite the setting. Like, I just loved being in the main character's head so much. He's so willful and determined, despite the fact that he has dyslexia and has kind of been labelled already as someone who isn't going to achieve much in life and is probably just going to end up as maggot fodder, as he would probably put it. So yeah, the narrator just has the most incredible voice, really easy to follow and full of personality. And that really made the book for me, and I'm sure many others, because this was the winner of the 2012 Costa Children's Book Award. There we go. I think I got this as a review copy from Hotkey Books back in the day. Either I did or someone I know did, and then they passed it on to me because it had a postcard in it that was like, thanks from Hotkey Books. So yeah, thank you Hotkey Books, whether you gave this directly to me or I got it at a more roundabout way. Yeah, thanks for the review copy. At the moment I'm reading another long neglected review copy. This is, I'll just read the back of the book actually because it's proof. An Island of Our Own by Sally Nichols. This I got at some point before April 2015, which when the book came out. This has languished on my shelf. When I tell you how much this has languished on my shelf. But you know what, I think I've actually picked it up at the perfect time because of all the Noel Streatfeild books that I read earlier in the month. This is so much the same kind of vibes, only with kind of one protagonist who's also the narrator. So imagine like Noel picked a character from one of her books and wrote the book in first person. As far as I'm aware, her books are all third person, and this is first person. So that's really the main difference. And apart from it being set in the present day, it just so much has that vibe to me. It's about the main character Holly and her brothers, one who is older, 18 years old, and their legal guardian, and one who is a lot younger than her, and the fact they have no money and really need some money in order to pay for the things that are just a step above basic necessities, and her hopes that they can get some, and her memories of her mother and father when they were alive and all of that kind of thing. I'm not very far into it yet. I've just kind of got to the point where they're about to start a quest to get their hands on some treasure that has been left to them via the means of clues. So yeah, I'm really excited to carry on reading this. Those vibes are just impeccable. I think if you love Noel Streatfeild books like Ballet Shoes, Circus Shoes, all the other shoes, and the ones that I mentioned earlier in this video, then you will probably love this as well. It's just the same vibe, I feel, very strongly. So there you go. I'm very excited to carry on reading this. I might have a little time for some more pages before I go to bed, but otherwise I'm now going to say goodbye and probably pick up again tomorrow. Hello! It is time for my final update for this month. I didn't finish any other books, that was it. So all I have to do now is the tally! Everybody's favourite bit. I mean, it's fast becoming my favourite bit. I just love the satisfaction of seeing the numbers. Right, so what were those numbers? I read one ebook from a comics app. I read one library audiobook. I read one library ebook. I read one library print book, which was of course Memory Peace by Elisa Coe. And I read a whopping, are you ready? Are you ready though? I'm not sure you're ready because I can't really believe it myself. I am so impressed and so excited and so covering up the fact that I'm trying to get this pile all lined up. 8 TBR books. I'm so pleased. I can't tell you how happy I am that this is where we're at. This is the first month of my new rules and I've read 8 print books. Amazing. All from my TBR. Ah! A fair few of them are children's books or YA, but actually a good proportion of my TBR is children's books and YA, so I shouldn't hold that against them. But yeah, I'm really pleased with having read this many, so there we go. If you have read any of these books or any of the ones that I mentioned earlier, please let me know in the comments what you thought. Otherwise, update me on your own TBR projects or just how your reading is going in general, and you will see me again soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!